Hey guys, Ivor Margerison again, founder of MicroWeddings.org, author of the book How to Plan Your Own Micro-Wedding, and a wedding planner and officiant who happens to have helped about 1,000 couples put together small weddings. So today we're going to be talking about the second chapter of my book, which is all about the people, the vendors, the professionals who are going to put together your wedding day, make things happen, make your dreams come true. So with the people, now like I said, the word is vendors. Some people are kind of confused by what that means. The vendors are basically any professional that you've hired to help with your day. So with a small wedding, let's start with the ceremony. The big ones, kind of the core vendors are going to be your officiant, your wedding officiant who's going to be up there doing the ceremony, the photographer who takes photos, the florist, the hair and makeup stylist, maybe a videographer, and then whoever's going to handle the food and drinks afterwards. Those are kind of the core vendors. So now let's start with the officiant first. The wedding officiant's the guy who leads the ceremony. Simple as that. Traditionally, it would have been a minister or pastor. Nowadays, when you say wedding officiant, it usually implies someone like me who's a professional wedding officiant who is legally qualified to ordain the marriage. Now, the wedding officiant, it's pretty straightforward. Finding a wedding officiant is fairly simple. You go on a wedding directory, Wedding Wire, The Knot. You're going to get a lot of options for your area. It's kind of tricky. With all those, most things nowadays with weddings are pay to play. So they're not showing you like the top rated or the best value. They're just showing you usually who pays for the highest ad. So a lot of times those first ones that come up on those websites can be really, really expensive. So if you're on a really, really tight budget, there's some other kind of websites, things maybe like Thumbtack, sometimes Craigslist, but things can get a little weird on some of those. So definitely read your reviews and try to obviously get the officiant you can handle in your budget. Now, if you are on a really, really tight budget, or honestly, if you just want to add a more personal touch, you want something a little bit more contemporary, I highly recommend having a friend or family member officiate your wedding. Shameless self-promotion. I have a guide. It's called How to Officiate a Wedding. MicroWeddings.org. You can get the link. It's 50 bucks. It comes with a guide. It comes with a sample script that they can use to put together your ceremony. And then I'll even hop on a phone call with them, talk them through it, give them some advice, kind of, explain the process. Realistically, officiating a wedding is fairly simple. With a big wedding, it's nice to have a professional up there, to kind of be a part of things and kind of help organize things and tell the groomsmen to put their hands in their pockets and stuff like that. But, with something more like, sorry, not put their hands in their pockets. You don't want the groomsmen to put their hands in their pockets. It doesn't look good. You want their hands folded in front. Anyway, that's another video. Okay. So professional officiant can do a little bit more, but with a really, really small wedding out in the park, something like that, yeah, having a friend or family member officiate is super casual. It's very simple. People do it all the time. Now, the question is it legal? It depends on the state you're in, but the biggest thing to think of is like you can do the ceremony, and then afterwards you can handle the legal part, whether you go have a judge sign it or whatever the case. But that's a question for your county clerk. I can't give legal advice across the whole world like that. So that's the wedding officiant. Then we got the photographer. Photographer's pretty simple. Go on Instagram, find someone who has photos that you like. Finding someone who does a small wedding, small weddings is hard. It's become a little bit easier in recent years. It's gotten more trendy. You can kind of search like elopement photographer, things like that. When you reach out to them, a lot of them will have like 6 hours listed, 8-hour minimums. You can always just ask, be like, hey, can we have your service for a couple hours? We're doing a small wedding, something like that. A lot of them are open to it, especially if you are working with like a weekday or a morning or something like that. If you are trying to do like a Saturday in June at sunset, it's a little bit more difficult because all the vendors are going to be wanting to be at a bigger wedding with a bigger price. So always try to work around those peak days. You don't want to be competing with big weddings and big budgets if you are trying to save money, which I assume you are. Most people want to save money. So that's the photographer, the officiant. Florist, pretty simple. Call a florist, ask for a bouquet. If you are on a budget there, I always recommend asking for a bridesmaid size bouquet. When you say like wedding, everyone like thinks that you're this $50,000 kind of person who's ready to like blow out all this money. If you are trying to keep things simple, a bridesmaid size bouquet is still a good size. That's one way to kind of explain to them like, hey, I'm trying to do something simple. Like, can I just do a bridesmaid size bouquet? And some florists will have minimums. Some will say they have a $500 minimum. Some will be very accommodating. So I'd always recommend calling around, reading reviews, and just finding someone who is a little bit more flexible on that, because you really don't need you don't need a massive bouquet. You don't need table arrangements generally. So you're looking for something a little bit more simple. Try to find a florist that can accommodate that. Hair and makeup stylist, pretty straightforward. Someone's going to come do your hair and makeup for you. A lot of times these people will have like a minimum. They'll require you to have like 5 bridesmaids getting services done. A lot of micro weddings don't have that, so oftentimes it's easier just to go into a salon. Keep that in mind. Videographer, kind of the same thing as photographer. Try to find someone who's accommodating for small weddings. It's pretty easy. Well, no. It's sorry, I said that wrong. It's not easy. It's depending on where you are. Finding a quality videographer who wants to come out and shoot for an hour can be very, very difficult. And with photography, it's the same thing. A lot of these big photographers, you got to keep in mind in the wedding industry, the average vendor does about 20 weddings a year. So the average photographer does 20 weddings a year. So 20 weddings a year. Say they want to make the median household income in America, which is $60,000, that means they're charging $3,000 per wedding. You want a photographer to come to the park, shoot some photos for a couple hours, you're not going to pay him $3,000. It depends on how much where you live, what you're going to pay him is going to change. But the point is like getting an hour of good quality photography for about $500 is usually a pretty good rate. So that's something to kind of go for, but it's tricky depending on where you are, and it's hard to find those people because, like I said, a lot of people in the wedding industry have these traditional mindsets, and they have these really high minimums, and they're not flexible. So you just got to do your research, send out some messages, send out emails, text, call people, go on Instagram. Same thing with videographers. Just explain what you're doing. Say, hey, there's going to be 20 of us, a couple hours, friends and family in the park. Can you help us out? And that's kind of the question you're going to be sending to most of your vendors because most of the packages on their website aren't really going to work for you. So that's the main thing with the people to kind of keep in mind. That's kind of what my book gets into a little bit more of the details of like how to address these questions, how to go after these people. But it's really just a matter of it's kind of like playing darts with mashed potatoes. You just keep throwing stuff out there, keep emailing, keep looking. It can take a lot of time, but once you get a rhythm down, once you get your message copied, you start pasting it and just sending it out everywhere. Really try to spread a wide net because, like I said, so much of the early stuff you're going to get on Google is going to be very traditional wedding vendors that are not going to be working with you. So cast a wide net, get creative when you're looking for it. There are a lot of awesome wedding vendors out there who are accommodating for small weddings and will work with more reasonable budgets and stuff like that. So anyway, keep that in mind. If you guys do want some more help, remember I do got my book, How to Plan Your Own Micro Wedding, on Amazon. It's like $20. Comes with some nice resources like a to-do list, a worksheet, a how-to guide, random stuff like that kind of walks you through. It's all pretty simple. Yeah, and shameless self-promotion. Obviously, I wrote the book. I'm pretty biased, but I think it's pretty handy. $20. Anyway. The other one too is obviously I got all these free videos on YouTube. If you guys are enjoying those, if you can like and subscribe, that would be enormously helpful. Truly appreciate it. Free for you, helps me make more of this content. So stay tuned. I do have more and more of these videos breaking down each part of my book into more subcategories to help you guys try to figure out if a micro wedding is right for you and how to put it together. So anyway, thanks for stopping by, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you next time.